Okay, so firstly, I live in Japan. I was born, raised in the US. I first came to Japan 30 years ago when I was in my 20s as an exchange student, and then came back many times and ultimately ended up settling here, living here, and so on. One thing I can certainly say right now is I'm sure as hell glad that I'm not in the US right now. But that being said, it's not like I'm just keeping my eyes and ears closed and I don't care. Number one. Number two, what affects the US affects the world, and it certainly does and will and has and is affecting Japan, although it sort of hasn't hit people, maybe yet 100%, or people aren't really clear on what's happening. Just as the media in the US is not even really, mainstream media, let's say, reporting, like, for example, all the riots that occurred yesterday, the 17th President's Day, in all 50 states, which was announced before it happened. I was waiting to see the news, and there wasn't much, apparently. I mean, obviously some online sites, people independently sort of posting. But in addition to, the fact that the news here just really doesn't show any of that, and the people here overall just don't have any clue, it's like, I mean, everything in the Japanese news is like about the tariffs, like, will Trump give tariffs to Japan and how will that affect the economy? Other than that, there might be some, he met with Putin to talk about ending the war. Everything's spun in a way that kind of seems positive and sort of avoids the reality of what's really going on. Doge, going in, hacking into the Social Security, the IRS system, and all this crazy stuff. I mean, and like nothing about Musk either. Although, I just today passed by place selling, smartphones, iPhones, and whatever. And there was the Starlink thing. Oh, you can have Starlink now. And the new Apple intelligence is in the new phone. Like everything, like this is, like a good thing, right? I saw the news the other day that Apple's now putting Starlink into the new iOS update. So I haven't updated it, but I've been using Apple products forever, not just iPhone, but my computer and everything else. So, but it's like, how can you even avoid any of this? So let's say, okay, so I won't use Apple and I'll switch over to something else. You really can't, none of us are going to be able to get away from any of this shit eventually, soon. AI, the whole thing. It's all happening now. And yes, many of us saw it coming. The other thing I want to talk about here, it's just something I want to say. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about this. I've listened since about 30 years ago when I first came to Japan, and I sort of discovered via David Bowie's Outside, which had electronic elements, and he was touring eventually with Nine Inch Nails at that time, sort of, right, electronic industrial music. And then on the Nine Inch Nails remix EPs and albums, there was a Coil remixes, so I discovered Coil, and through Coil I discovered other artists and got into Skinny Puppy and other sort of, what would be called industrial music artists. This is the 90s, mid-90s, when those artists were still active or somewhat active. Skinny Puppy actually had just sort of done the process, and Dwayne Goddell had died, so they were sort of splitting. But then there was also Download, which was a side project, and other things like this, with Genesis Purge, who since has passed away. But anyway, 30 years, and I'm thinking about, like, and I was listening again to the other day to Coil, and today to Skinny Puppy, and sort of nostalgic, you could say, music. But I listened to the lyrics to many of those things, and those songs are protesting. Skinny Puppy even had a song from their later period called Protest. Things going on. I mean, Skinny Puppy did a song about Tiananmen Square, for example, or Vivisect 6, which is about torturing animals testing products on animals and just basically, torturing them, kind of like Musk has been doing over the years with Neuralink, and so on. Right. So these artists kind of stood up and made this music, and one of the more sort of, I guess, popular of because industrial music is itself a sort of underground, side thing. It's not like the mainstream never really was, but if any artist made industrial music mainstream, it was in the 90s, 9 Inch Nails, Trent Reznor, and in his early recordings, and the most, the Downward Spiral, and right, the Fragile, etc. Those albums are kind of, and of course the ones that preceded, but sort of like about how messed up he was, right? And it's a little bit it's self-destructor, right? But he opened his horizons, how to put this, the metaphor is not working, but he sort of expanded out to go beyond his own sort of inner struggles, and I guess after he had sort of cleaned himself up after the Fragile and all that, with Year Zero in 2006, I believe it was, protesting George Bush Jr. and all the BS going on around after 9/11, and how the weapons of mass destruction and all the BS, around that. And people have forgotten this. It's amazing how quickly people forget. I remember living through that. I remember all the false alarms. I remember, right, the smoke screens. And so now we can attack Saddam Hussein, which was, of course, revenge for his father's failed war in Iraq. And all of that. And it was so crystal clear that it was happening, that it was lies. But people kind of knew they were being lied to and got sort of pissed off about it. And he wrote this album and did this very industrial thing to do, right? That you protest the rhetoric, and the fans were sort of on board with that. And that happened. Radiohead did this with Hail to the Thief around the same period. Nowadays, right, there's the politics of some say, well, now it's what's his name? I'm not thinking straight, because of course Radiohead are not active now, but Tom York is sort of, he's supportive of Israel and Zionism. So a lot of people are saying, well, F you to him. But, Radiohead did this as well. They protested Bush. And you had this kind of rebellion in music, and you had rebellious music. Of course, punk music was rebellious too, and political too. And I look around, not just the Grammys and the mainstream, but even the non-mainstream stuff, to the extent that it's even there, even on the sidelines or the margins of the mainstream, there's none of that now. And I made a comment about this because on it was Facebook. Of course, Zuckerberg owns that, and X owned by Musk, and all this shit is owned by these people. But came into my feed about Broken, the 9 Inch Nails EP, and I made a comment about how they didn't mention the film. And then I made a comment about this, and like, where are the artists who used to kind of shout and protest what's happening? And I'm talking, of course, about what's happening in America now with Trump and Musk and this crazy Doge, D-O-G-E, and this whole thing. And the, cutting funds for this and that and the other, education. And, there are all these planes crashing because the FAA people have been laid off, and it's nuts. It's chaos. And 50 states protests, and Fox News, doesn't report it. And Fox News reports that Trump was cheered at this Super Bowl when he was booed, and all this, this is crazy. And I said, where are the artists protesting this? Like, where's the music the musicians who had balls enough to do it, and the fans who also were, behind that. I mean, even if it was a kind of like group yeah thing, it was like, it made those issues sort of come to the forefront for at least, people who were listening and unhappy with it and had a, could have a voice. There's none of that. Skinny Puppy's gone now. Nine Inch Nails are planning a tour. If America doesn't implode before then, if they're going to be able to even do it. Actually, they had delayed the tour apparently because of the California fires. But, I don't get any sense that Reznor's about to make any statement about this, right? He's like at the thing accepting his awards and stuff. That's cool. I mean, I'm happy for him being happy and all that, but, he grew up and he has a wife and kids and making soundtracks, and that's cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, I was making a general comment about where are the artists who were doing this, and I don't see them, I don't hear them. I've been doing it, but who's, I mean, I'm nobody. I don't have representation. I have a YouTube page with like roughly 1,000, subscribers, and how many of those subscribers are watching videos when I have less than 100 hits per video, right? So it doesn't have that kind of impact. I'm saying where are the artists who have that impact making the statement and standing up for it, and I don't see them. And industrial music, which is kind of like, the electronic version of punk, it's more complex maybe, or eventually became more complex with artists like Coil or, Nine Inch Nails, whatever. Where is it? But again, I can make this music. I did Flags of Rage in 2018 protesting Trump, and I've done, before and since many things. But where are those artists in the world? So going back to the Facebook comment, I made this comment, and I got like several likes, but then I also got these comments that were like, well, the first was just that year zero seems dated because of the theme. And I said, actually, if you listen to the lyrics to those songs, they could apply just as much now in a way, in this twilight, where the world is coming to an end, or, the aliens are saying, the humans, you guys all had potential, so we used to say, but your greed, self-importance, and your arrogance has pissed it all away. Your time's ticking right away, and in this twilight, it's about the world's coming to an end, and it goes up in this ball of flame, or the sun passes across the sky for the last time, and we're literally feels like we're really on the brink of this now, not to mention the asteroid that might hit Earth in 7 years that NASA's looking at. But I think those songs are very relevant now, but we don't have, like I say, people doing that now, including okay, Nine Inch Nails, Skinny Puppies doesn't exist, Radiohead doesn't exist anymore. And following this comment, that was not the worst of the comments. That was like, and I said, well, to the contrary, I think those songs actually do have meaning now when they're, you put them in a new context. Of course, they were referencing something else, but it's basically the same continuum that led us to this point. The same governments that, have created these monsters, just progressing and progressively worse in a way. But the comments that followed this were like, someone said, I was with you until you mentioned Trump and Musk. If you use the word fascist, it loses its meaning. And then the comment following that was, well, they are the epitome of fascism, but one cannot expect an artist to do it for you or something, which wasn't, of course, the meaning that I was trying to convey. But again, I mean, this is a comment from some person. That's fine. But then what followed that was a comment in all capital bold letters that said, get a grip, you fucking idiot, or something like this. It was all in caps. It was just an angry, post. And I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't like or thumbs down. Well, there's no thumbs down on Facebook, or put an angry face or anything. I just ignored them, and I thought, these are the comments I get from making a statement about where are the artists that used to, speak out against these things. So these are people posting about, the Nine Inch Nails thread. So the Nine Inch Nails fans who would have been behind Resner and Year Zero and anti, Bush or anti status quo or anti establishment authority, whatever you want to call it. Now when I say the same thing about Trump and Musk, are like kind of flipping that in weird direction. And some people were just all out, shouting profanities at me for even suggesting it. Get a grip. I mean, you talk about, reflecting back on yourself. Obviously, I'm not the one with the anger problem there, but what happened, man? What's going on? And again, in Japan, it's like no one even has a clue, or if they do, they're just, doing this. And if you bring it up, a lot of people just, you're the bad guy for even bringing it up. It's not like I'm saying, I'm not trying to push any agenda here. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of looking at the news, and I'm tired of thinking about it. And I just want to live peacefully and die peacefully, basically, when the time comes, sooner or later. And the last several years have been mostly solitary, and doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon, unless people suddenly come together over some major, thing, like with 9/11 or with 3/11 in Japan, right, where people have to come together to fix it up. But can we fix this up? Can America fix itself up? We had riots in 50 states, and the news doesn't even show this. And I read that some of the major news sources were going to publish anti-Musk things, and they were shut down by Musk. He threatened them, and they rescinded. They caved in because these guys have so much power with the money and the government and the whole thing. And these Doge guys are obviously fascists, and they're getting away with it, although apparently hackers are hacking into their systems, and it's just total chaos. And whoever hasn't seen it, didn't see it coming, has been not paying attention. And that's like 99 point some percent of the population, And that's just crazy. And that is crazy. So to end this talk, I'm not going to make it too long. I just felt exhausted today, and I'm doing work and other things, and wanted to do music. Actually, I want to do covers of some of these songs that I'm talking about, that I'm mentioning, some of the Skinny Puppy material, the industrial stuff from 80s, 90s. Even there's a track from Year Zero I'm thinking of covering and maybe changing lyrics and doing in my own style, as I always do when I cover, to bring this stuff forward. But again, it's just for myself. Basically, I'll put it on this page, or maybe I'll publish it through streaming, whatever. I just published Disinfowar, a double album of 2 hours and 22 minutes. Literally, it's a 222. Is just how it came out. It has improvs on it. It has remixes of my own material on it. It has my cover of Bowie's "We Are the Dead" 2.0 mix, which I remixed this year's from last year, because it's relevant, right? Orwell and 1984. If people watching, I'm assuming many will know that, if not everyone, what that is. A dystopian fiction. And this kind of thing. I made you Diamond Dogs, Hunger City, circa 2025. But today I was going to do, and then I lost my motivation in a way, which is actually rare for me. Usually I'm always doing this stuff. I'm just mentally exhausted today in a way. And even it took me some time before I start doing this talk. I'm just sitting here kind of listening to music, or even shut it off, and just kind of tired. And now I'm doing the talk. I'm getting some of my energy back. There's nobody to talk to actually about these things, and I don't want to write an SNS. It's burning me out doing that. And then I get these nasty, horrible comments, not on my friends list. My friends list is just quiet. If I post something like this, I don't get likes and I don't get comments. It's just nothing. So it's like I'm pissing in the wind or shouting in the void. So I'm getting tired of doing that. probably it's just like for Zuckerberg and his AI bots to read it, right? So what's the fucking point? And if I put it on YouTube, I don't know whether or not there's actually a point or not, but it's just something I've been doing, and so I'll maybe continue to do it while the world is still here, I'm still here, and the internet is still running, and YouTube is still running, and it's still free speech, more or less. So that's my talk. I'll probably do some of these covers over time as I get motivated, and I'll be sharing them. The other project I was doing is going back to some of my own older covers, and like not only Bowie covers, but like other things. This collection I released in 2022. It's mostly older things, older recordings of cover songs of different artists. And Fire the Mind by Coil was on there, and I noticed on Spotify someone had put that on a list of Coil covers, which was cool, and it got me listening to Coil again, and it got me thinking about some of these things and my own covers that I hadn't listened to in a long time. My Scott Walker cover of Farmer in the City, which actually there are two mixes, and the mix from 2022 and the original mix that I did, and some other things. So I'm thinking about Scott Walker too, maybe covering. Scott Walker had a lot of political things in his music. His lyrics are difficult for people, and his music is difficult for people from Tilt onward especially, but even before Tilt. But I'm thinking of Tilt and the Drift in particular. And maybe I'll do something from the Drift next time. I did Farm in the City from Tilt, 1994. So that's my talk, I guess. So I woke up, you see, because I'm here alone. And so I need to do these talks. I need to go into the studio and make noise. And I might make some noise in my headphones tonight with USB, possibly, depending how I feel from now. Or I might just edit this talk and take a bath or shower and go to sleep. We'll see. Thanks for listening, those of you who are and made it this far. I have no fucking idea, just like anyone, right, where this shit's going. I mean, kind of do, but, right, we don't know the future exactly, individually or collectively, so let's just wait and see. Thank you. Marc, Lowe in Tokyo. Good night, or good morning, or good day. Thanks.